Have you noticed that there are some verses which are kind of like back to front from the way that you'd expect them to be? If you haven't, let me mention one and then we can talk about it together. It's in Matthew's Gospel in chapter 6. And it says this in verse 21. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Now, the reason I think that it's kind of a back to front verse is because many of us would think that actually our treasure follows our hearts. But what it's saying here is your heart follows your treasure. So there's a reason here why we need to check out what we really treasure, because that's what our hearts in the end will follow. And you know, sometimes we talk about, oh, this is on my heart and that's on my heart. And have you noticed that sometimes people say, oh, this is on my heart, but it never ever gets fulfilled? Or this is where my heart's telling me to go, but they go in a completely opposite direction. And you think, how can that be? Surely what's on our hearts is so strong that we can hold to it. But it's actually saying in this passage that if your treasure is somewhere else, in the end, your heart will be pulled towards that treasure. And so what we've got to do is to say, where is my treasure located? Because that's where my heart is going to end up. And this is why we've got to say in the end that we shouldn't be laying up treasure on earth, because the more we sort of put our commitments, our treasure into that which really is passing and transient, we're going to miss out because our heart's going to go to that again and again. What this passage is really saying is that you need to be laying up treasure in heaven, and you need to have your heart there set on that ultimate place. When one day we're going to stand before the Lord, you know, the ultimate joy needs to be hearing Jesus say, well done, good and faithful servant. Not because we can then, you know, pat ourselves on the back and say, oh, look how good I've been, but because we're servants of Jesus and we've actually been good servants. And that's what really counts. Is that where your treasure is, to be a servant of the Lord? I hope so, because if that's where your treasure is, that's where your heart will be, and you will be able to fulfill it without deviating or going off in the wrong direction.